I just found out that Faber-Castell has been behind the scenes secretly redesigning the magical freaking Pitt pen. And by the way, none of these videos are sponsored. Every single Pitt pen I've ever purchased, I purchased with my own money. They are not cheap. They are worth every freaking penny, I will have you know. So in this video, I'm so excited to explore and find out all about the new designed Pitt pen from Faber-Castell. Like I'm freaking out, like hundreds of products that I've ever made incorporate this one magical tool. It's everything to me. And I wanna show you also what is so magical about it and why it's so helpful, and I can make painting and mixed media go from super hard and overwhelming to like a breeze. It's magical. So let's dive in. Can you tell I'm excited? Freaking excited! Real quick before I start showing you how I use Pitt pens. Pitt pens are not watercolor markers, and I just wanna make the distinction between pigment water-based ink, which are found in Pitt pens. Those are permanent, versus a highly pigmented watercolor water-based marker that they also do make and sell, which are brilliant markers. But just make no mistake that the Pitt pens are not water soluble. I've seen some artists kind of try to like fudge this, like they're like, if you put it on, watercolor paper and you real quick add water, you can kind of get it to move. That's kind of every marker because it's just wet. But to be clear, they are permanent ink and they're not watercolor markers. They're very different. You should absolutely check out the Faber-Castell watercolor markers, by the way, because I have them as well. They are gorgeous markers, gorgeous, but super different, super. They're both water-based. One is water soluble and one is not. Big difference there. So let's move on. Let's go get some art on. Okay, I just wanted to show you the difference between the Faber-Castell Pitt pens, the original big fat artist brush pen that they have discontinued. That's the fat barrel one. This is the skinny barrel one. These are still available in a whole bunch of different colors. These have like a small brush nib, as you can see, and these ones have a large one. So these are the ones I'm used to working with. In the Pitt family, you can find a lot of different art supplies, from colored pencils to the markers. And apparently with Pitt pens, I know especially like for the color black, I think that comes in 11 different nibs. They don't have the colors in all 11 different nibs, as far as I can find out, as not according to my research. And these are the watercolor markers that I was referring to. So if you do want them, these are amazing. And I will post a link in the description box to the review I've done on these. So these are dual brush nib sided. And just to show you like why it's such a big difference. So that is the watercolor. There's a similar color. And I believe all the color of the pens are supposed to be similar as well. So if you take water and you apply it to the watercolor marker, you can see it's super water soluble and it moves. My shaky bit. And then the Pitt pen, you can get a little bit of movement when you just put it on the paper, but it's not meant for watercolor applications. So if you let that sit and dry, they do become permanent. So this is where I think a lot of artists, and I just wanna make sure you're buying the correct product. If you want water soluble, you really do want the watercolor ones. All right, let's look at the new design. I'm dying. I'm also gonna do this. I'm gonna put a big mark there and wait a few minutes and see how reactive it is after a few minutes. Faber-Castell is one of my favorite all-time, all-purpose, all-round brand. Their stuff is just quality. Okay, so here is the new design. I've not opened this yet. I will have to say I was not able to find this on Amazon. I was only able to purchase this through Jerry's Artorama. So I don't know if it's widely released yet or if they're just rolling it out. I can't believe it's been around for as long as it has and I never even heard of it. So these are the new dual markers. So the nibs are very different, apparently. So we have this little fine liner nib, and then we have the big brush nib. I'm so happy to see the return of this because I'll show you after I just look at these. I'm gonna show you exactly how I use them to make my mixed media portraits and my whimsical girls look their best, but I've not held these in my hot little hands yet. It's really light, it's nice. I'm loving that you get a little baby side. That's actually nice because especially I use black a ton and I have to buy the big brush pen, but then I also have to go and collect them in the smaller nibs. So if it comes together, that's half as many markers that I have to buy. So that's amazing. I wanna look at this compared to, I'll try to get the same colors. So this is the original one. So this one looks a little thicker, which is just fine. They're not super different. They're pretty similar. This one's a little bit thinner and this one's a little bit fatter, but that's really no big deal either way. Oh, I wonder if this is the same barrel. Oh, that's so funny. It is the same barrel as their watercolor markers, but this has a bullet nib. This is the watercolor marker, has a bullet nib, and this one has that little baby one. But interesting that it's the same barrel in essence. So just a fun thing to make note of. All right, so these are the colors that it comes in. Of course, I bought the biggest set because I use them all the time. So we have this, and we have this, and we have this. And I will be using every single one of these. One thing I really appreciate about the big Pitt pens is that they do not run out of ink very fast. I've been working with the same huge array of Pitt pens for years, and I mean years, over hundreds of projects, and I only have to replace my black and white ones regularly and my skin tones. But these also, I really need to highlight this because these are the babies that I use the most. When I'm doing my mixed media girls, I use these almost all the time. So with that being said, I also recommend picking up the skin tone set, especially if you're one of my club members. They have an expanded skin tone set, which I bought to review, but I'm so busy working, I haven't had time to do it. They also have like a 6 marker set as well, which is the one that I use pretty much all the time. But I wanted to do a separate review, and I will, of this pack as well. But as you can see, I cannot get enough. So I'm gonna use them now. I'm so freaking excited. So I'm gonna put these puppies to the side. And now in this video, I'm gonna show you, or this next segment of the video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I use these and why they're so incredible for when you're making your mixed media portraits. I'm not even gonna bother showing you how these work dry because I feel like that's really boring. They're just markers right out the gate. So I just wanna see, okay, so this was that swatch that I did. So if you notice, if you don't wait, and this is still really wet, as I said in the beginning, the pigments are gonna move around because they haven't dried yet into the paper, and so the water will move it. So this is that stripe, and I've now let it sit for the few minutes that I've been chattering away, and as you can see, it doesn't move at all, which just goes to prove my point, which is that this pigment ink is permanent. I'm not joking, it's permanent. So this is how I use it on my Micpedia portraits. So this is part of my hamburger system, and I'm just gonna go over that super quick in case you're new here. As you can see, and this actually comes in one freebie handout. So if you want this, just let me know in the comments if you're interested in the hamburger system. All of these are taught on YouTube, so I'm not gonna go over this in detail, but I'll put the link in the description box to the full playlist, which goes over each layer. But basically, I just wanted to show you, I build my art projects in the same way with the same ingredients, in the same order, and Pitt pens is part of the process. It's here, right here in layer 5, okay? And here is a different visual, but it's the same process, so I liken it to stacking up your juicy toppings on a hamburger, and these are the supplies, the equivalent supplies. So right here, artist Pitt pens. Boom, boom, boom. So this, I'm telling you, this is integral, okay? And this is the move that I make. So this is the base layers, basically, of a hamburger, without the layer of collage. And I think there actually are gelatos on there as well for shading. And then we get to the sealer level, the sealer layer right there, Mod Podge. It's my tomato layer. You are gonna seal this puppy with your sealer layer. Okay, and this is where, is anyone gasping yet? This is where the magic of the Pitt pen comes in. Now she must have had a water soluble ingredient there, so I saw it smudged. That is a very important part to understand. If you have anything water soluble under those layers, it will activate under your sealant. So make sure you watch the whole series from beginning to end so you understand all the layers of the hamburger system, so you know what works and what doesn't work. There are consequences in mixed media, and you can make a huge disastrous mess if you don't understand your art supplies. That's why I'm such a huge, I feel so passionately about the hamburger system, because it keeps you out of trouble because you'll know exactly what to do and when to do it. So you put your sealer layer over all of your previous dry ingredients, and then you're gonna dry this with a hair dryer And then when you're done with that, you're gonna come back and I'm gonna show you how to use those amazing magic Pitt pens to make magic on your whimsical girls and your mixed media faces. Are you ready to witness the magic, you guys? Oh my gosh, this is still drying a little bit. Mod Podge is totally clear when it's done, and this was the matte, but it still has just a lovely tiny sheen to it. I just realized as I was blowing this dry with my hair dryer that there's no white in this set, which I didn't really realize until now. So just take a look at these colors again. We have our neutrals, all the skin tones are right here, which is amazing. We have basically our primaries with extended versions, right, of green and blue, which is perfect because they're my favorite. A few more kind of skin tone possibilities in here too, with just one purple. That's really common. I noticed that too in my other marker sets, like alcohol markers. You get the fewest number of purples, which I find super interesting. Truth be told, there are more shades in the old set, and maybe they're coming out with more colors. I hope they are, but there's no white. And I was rifling through my old set. Look how many whites I have. And I don't have them because they're bad. I bought so many whites in the past because they're amazing. They're actually quite opaque, and they're a little bit softer, and they just go on really nicely compared to a paint pen. Look how dirty this is. I've used it so many times. So a Posca pen can skip. They tend to skip a lot because of the nibs, and you have the free-flowing acrylic ink inside. These are pigment, and they work inside very differently, so they don't skip whatsoever. So they have a very nice, totally smooth application that I really, really enjoy. But just interesting to note that there's no white. So if you're in love with them like I am, you'll have to buy white separately in the old style, which are still available, by the way. So these are my skin tones, and this is my favorite way to work. So shading with acrylics is very challenging. You have to have a lot of experience. You have to go to some sort of art school to understand how to do wet on wet blending, wet on dry blending, and especially in teeny tiny intricate little spaces on your whimsical faces. It's hard to get smooth blending with the brush. So see how her soft glow, like what a soft glow this is? That was many, many layers of me layering with acrylics. But if you don't have experience, it's super hard. So I have little tricks to get that glow without having to paint at all, and it's all covered in my hamburger system, and that is by also using gelatos. Okay, so go look at the rest of the series. Back to the Pitt pens. Over your sealer layer, you can use these to also get some amazing shading without having to know how to paint. It's freaking amazing. So you can hear its little squeaky squeakness, and it does stay wet for a minute because of this sealer plastic layer. And this is where most artists miss. They're trying to get it to move right when it's on their watercolor paper, that window before it dries and they add water. What they're missing is that layer in between of sealant. Takes the rush out. And you can come in here and very patiently and slowly add some more shading to your mixed media girls in a very calm fashion that doesn't require a lick of painting experience. Isn't that amazing? Beautiful. But just when you thought that was as good as it was gonna get, I actually have a bigger surprise for you. So while you're jaunting around to your canvas, if you make a mistake, because of this sealant layer, you can just take a baby wipe and erase it. So you can, for the first time in your life, come in here and kind of maybe get a little brazen with your shading. Maybe put some darker moves on your girl than you normally would, because you have this window where you can play, but then you can also just erase. So say that is kind of like an ugly smudge line. Well, I could even just lick my finger and honestly wipe it back. It comes off super easily. It also might make you a little braver. Maybe you start using some even darker colors. So the ones I used to love, and just making sure, okay, they changed the names. So it's funny, I'm glad I checked that out. So on the classic set, the big marker used to be called Light Flesh, and now it looks like they're calling it Beige Red. I do know in the portrait set they have a flesh, I believe, and the red, and the beige red, but that I think takes the place of the Light Flesh. And now I used to use Cinnamon. Yep, this is my Cinnamon, which is kind of the darker shade. So this is amazing if you want to kick your kick your shading up a notch and you're working on a Caucasian color skin. Look at her eyes, just got even more incredibly shiny because I went a darker shade. Isn't that gorgeous? Squeak, squeak, squeak. Squeak's how you know it's working. Another super fun thing that you can experiment with is, say you're like, this is like amazing. I could do this all day. I do want to experiment with the darker shadings, but I'm still a little terrified of making a wrong move or whatever. Another thing that I like to do is take advantage of the hamburger system and add another layer of sealant on top of the pit pens. So we could do all this and then you could seal it again. And the reason that that is so powerful is that it allows you to keep playing. And once you let these sit for a minute or two and then you seal it, they will not move. Okay, if they do, it's because you didn't let it sit long enough. And actually, I will do it to prove it to you. Okay, make this nice and dark. So your layer doesn't have to stop there. Okay, so once you have all your deeper, darker shades, I'm gonna dry this again and we'll do another layer of sealer and I will just prove to you and show you just how powerful and why this is so, so cool. All right, so this is, the proof is in the pudding. Did I already? I was like, I swear, I just opened that. All right, again, I just really want to prove to you that you're safe to keep layering, okay? Those pit pens, like I said, they are permanent. So, and rather saying, take my word for it, I'm just gonna prove it over and over. Okay, so there's our second layer of sealant, which could be the last layer up here, but there is one more, which is adding another, you can do a varnish on top, you can use a spray sealer, so if you wanted to make this glossy, but I don't wanna get into layer 7, we're just focusing on the pit pens today. But again, I'm gonna dry this again with my hair dryer, don't go anywhere, and I'll show you why this is so beneficial to you as a growing artist. All right, so this is all dry. Again, it's dry to the touch, but some of it underneath the top layer is still wet, so that's why you see a little bit of that, but it really does dry too. Absolutely nothing. Beautiful. So yeah, why this is so exciting is that it gives you the freedom to experiment. So, and by the way, I'm loving these freaking markers as I knew Faber-Castell would not let me down. Okay, so what it does is you have a layer, all your perfect layers are locked under here, right? Like you can't mess up anything. She's beautiful. So now you can play. Now you don't go back over this with acrylics, but you can go over it with these amazing pens, okay? So say you want to like fill in some things. Maybe you're like, I want her to have a hair wispies kind of coming down, okay? Yes, that would be beautiful. Maybe she looks like this, okay? Maybe we have something coming like this. Maybe we wanna have thicken up her upper lash lid, okay? So you can come in here and start playing, almost like a kid playing on a chalkboard, and literally start messing around. And the best part is if maybe you're like, oh my God, that looks terrible. I didn't want to come into her face. I didn't want to make that move. You can take a baby wipe, okay? And you can just erase without interrupting any of the layers that are underneath. Do you realize how revolutionary that is? That means you can experiment and play and get braver and not worry. Now, some of this, I think I left it too long. So I did these ones first, right? And then I went over on this side for a little bit. And then I did the eyelashes over here. And then I did the eyelashes over there. So that's super important. So just like our experiment at the beginning, right? This is watercolor marker. This is the pit pen immediately following where it's still a little bit wet. And that's later when it dries. So if you wait too long, it sets and it's dry. So I waited too long over here. So there's some ghost effects, but I had just put those lashes on, so I was able to wipe them off easily. So you do have to wait a little bit, but like that just came off and that was there too. So just, you know, you can't put your lines down and wait a day. They won't come off. But if you want to test an eyelash super quick and see how it looks, or if you screw up, you absolutely have a good 30-second window where you can just simply take it off. See in these lashes. So I've been chattering. Yeah, and you kind of have like a ghost print, but that's fine, okay? So I'm testing them so you don't have to be scared to test them on your end, but even having 1 minute where you can like tentatively try something out, knowing you can erase it, That's like revolutionary, at least in the art world. Oh, I'm so shaky. So yeah, take advantage of that. How cool is that, by the way? Cool. I haven't even tested out the little baby nib, so I can do that. Maybe some bottom lashes. I just did a episode on mixed media lashes. If you need help, you can check that out. Yes. All right, so this is actually quite a substantial nib. Looks smaller. It's actually delivering quite a meaty little punch. Yeah, it's probably, I want to say maybe, see, that came right off. It's probably about as like a 1 millimeter. I'm sure it says it on the box, but like who has time to read the box because I'm way too busy having fun right now. But it's quite a meaty little nib. And the same thing you can do, you know, in the hair and everything that you did on her face, which is kind of put this on and come here and you can use your finger to play and have fun and smear and blend all the parts of your mixed media girl. Maybe there's a stray hair over here, and maybe there's more stray hairs over here, right in here. I don't know, I'm just having a whimsy day. But yeah, you get the idea. So I could not be happier. I'm so happy. It was a high time. She has some real Lucy Bang bits too. Yeah, again, if you have regrets, just go in, wipe off, and have the magic. I'm so happy that Faber-Castell saved the day and came out with this new marker. Stay tuned and subscribed, however, because there is a little bit of a twist to this story. Never before have I ever known of any other brand or any other art supply manufacturer coming out with a pigment pen, and I just discovered these by Staedtler. This is the first time ever that I've ever been aware. I just purchased them, so my next video, I'm gonna be reviewing these and see if they're a match. Can they compete with the Pitt pen? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out because I think they're not as expensive as the Pitt pens. The Pitt pens do come with a price tag. And the whites are so good, by the way. Not sure if I really stressed that enough. They really are awesome. But yeah, I can't wait to play with these other pigment arts. So subscribe. If you learn anything, let me know. If you want a cheat sheet to my hamburger method, let me know. And again, check out that playlist. I'll link it right here for you so you can cruise over. So much fun to explore and enjoy in that whole playlist of the hamburger system. I will see you next time with that Staedtler review. Stay tuned.